job is to convince the employer that we will be the best match, that we will be the best person for this job, right? But how do we do that? It is so important, right? Because otherwise we won't get the job. And one of the things that I keep saying again and again that sounds a bit harsh is that basically the companies do not give a crap about you until you've shown them what it is you can add of value. And that is basically the answer to that entire question. Like, how do you convince the company that you are the right candidate? It starts with showing them what value you can bring, and then keep showing them why you will be a valuable employee. So the best way to do that is to focus on them instead of focusing on you. Because again, if you just focus on you, you're not really showing them the value, not directly at least. And the more direct we can be, the better. So the less people need to use energy, the better. As a human species, we love things where we don't need to use any additional energy. That means that we will make the choice that no, or it means that when we can create a bridge, right? So if I say that I have this and this education, then the people reading it, okay, let me give an actual example. I have a master's degree in branding and communication. So when I say I have a master's degree in branding and communication, that's fine. That's like, oh, amazing, woohoo, lucky you. But the thing is, if I then apply for a job as a career consultant, which I have had before, they're gonna be sitting there reading my material and be like, that's great, but how does this really relate? Talking about branding, marketing, communication, could be a leap, but how does this work in relation to the kind of job that you're applying for here? And this is what a lot of people do. They will just write their CV and mention what they've done. They don't think the company into that equation for some reason. So really figuring out what is the actual value with your experience, with your education, with what you come with that you can give. And this doesn't matter if you are newly graduated or if you have a long work life behind you. It's all about how to communicate. Of course, if they're looking for someone with 10 years experience, then as a newly graduate, you can't you can't do that. But it's just important to remember to look at what is the value you have as a newly graduate that will match the company, that will help the company. As a newly graduate, you often have a lot of the newest knowledge about the theme that you're interested in and the topic, right? It's also about like pulling out the things that you have that you don't necessarily think about. In Denmark at university and in general in the education system, we do a lot of collaboration. So we do a lot of our things in working in groups and stuff like that. So that's a skill, right? To be able to work together with other people. And if you're like, hey, you're going to be in this team of 5 people, and we're looking for someone who's really good at coordinating, then you can draw out an example saying that, well, during my studies, I always ended up being the person who coordinated things, and I really love it. I really found that that is one of my strengths, and I can see how even in this job I can use the skill I learned at the university or wherever you learned it, right? But it's really about creating that bridge between what's your experience, what's your education, into what is it that the company needs. Because again, if it's just like, oh, this is what I did, and the company doesn't really care. It's not super important to them. Like, you need to make them care. You need to show them the value that you can actually bring them before kind of starting to think about a lot of other things. Because that's when why would they hire you if they don't see the value, right? So figuring out how, and you do this by research, right? Of course, you can like read the job ad and be, oh yeah, so I can kind of mix this with this and this with this, and that's fine. But the way that you do it, like really do it, is by doing a lot of research, calling the companies, asking them questions if there's a phone number in the job ad, um, asking these good questions that can give you some information that can help you build that bridge by knowing what they're really looking for. Um, and side note, it's not always what they describe in the job ad, to be honest. You want to know more about that, feel free to reach out and see if we could work together, because that's some of the things that I help teach you in my network and in my courses. But that's one thing. So one thing is doing that in your material, showing them in the CV, in the cover letter, hey, I need to show you how I bring value to you, right? Then you get to the interview, or actually there's kind of a middle step, there's a prep for the interview, and that is so extremely important. And this is where you're really going to set yourself aside by really prepping well, and maybe even surprising them with presenting them with a small mini case you've made yourself that matches what they're looking for. Because in Denmark at least, in a lot of sequence of interviews, they'll have like a start interview or first interview where you kind of gauge, is this something? It's kind of a chemistry. Is this interesting? Does this person match? Is it really their CV? Stuff like that, kind of filling each other out interview. Then between interview 1 and interview 2, you might have a talent test or a personality test or a case. So basically, if you before the first interview come already with a kind of a case or something to present, you're really showing initiative here. You're really showing them how you can create value for them. And it doesn't need to be something where you don't have all the information, so you can never make something that's like 100% correct, right? But it shows value. So that's a very good thing to do. In terms of the tests, of course, you can prepare for that. I'm certified in the talent test, so that's something where you can kind of take a test with someone like me or someone else, different tests that can help you prepare for the interviews as well. So doing all of this prep work, and sometimes it seems like a lot of time and energy to put into one application, one CV, one cover letter, one interview, or the series of interviews. But the thing is that the more time and energy you put in the beginning, the better the whole process will be, and also just the more likely you are to actually get the interview. So I meet a lot of people who are like, I just need to send as many applications as I can. But in 95%, if not more, of all, in 95%, you will get a job faster by being more thorough in the beginning and in the process, because all of the research and all of the things that you learn in the beginning before sending the material is something you can use all throughout the process. So it takes a bit more time in the beginning, and then you can kind of use it for the rest, for the interviews. It's really good prep and all of that. So I think this is really important. And remember, by the way, to like and subscribe. That would be amazing. But remember that if you keep in mind that the company doesn't care about you, I know, again, it sounds harsh, but if you think about it, the company doesn't care until you've shown them what value you bring and really bridge the gap. So you really told them what is the value you bring, because if you can't tell them, it can be really hard. We all have different backgrounds and we look at things, we understand things differently, right? So we want to make sure that you can actually tell them what is the gap between you, your experience, and them. Where does the value add lie for them by hiring you? Because then all of a sudden you can bring value, and then you become interesting. Be interested to be interesting. I keep bringing this up, and you're being interested in your prep work. So in all of the calling the company, doing your research, all of that, you are being interested. So they become interesting. So you become interesting, well, for them with your material. You're going to do amazing, I'm sure. Again, reach out if you have any questions around this. We can maybe work together and figure out your path to the next job in Denmark. And other than that, have an amazing day.